This has been a broken record for 500 years. And what I mean by that is we have been mistreated. We have been completely decimated as a people. The atrocities of our ancestors we've been dealing with for over 500 years, including executions, public lynchings, right? Again, annihilation of a people, mistreatment of a people to dominate a certain group of people based off color. That is, of course, overt racism. And it continues to happen in 2020, right? And it's going to continue to happen further down the line until we completely separate ourselves from modern society or the so-called government, right? And again, it's no different than the case we have here, right, with Ahmaud Arbery, where, of course, we've seen the video. I've talked about this before in several videos, and I'm continuing to talk about this. The public lynching and the execution of Ahmaud Arbery, jogging while black, being racially profiled and executed by two white supremacists in Georgia. And then you have these certain group of people also who want to continue to uphold the standards of white supremacy, right? By wanting to join in on their party, even though they're so-called black. That is what you call, and I've been saying this for years, that is what you call the Coon Code authors. For those who don't know what a Coon Code author is, something I made up a few years ago where basically where I say there's this old saying that black society, we don't follow a code, right? Or they say black society needs to follow a code. If we follow a code, we can get up, we can continue to empower ourselves and perhaps eradicate white supremacy, right? So in this case, when you don't follow a code, what you do is you try to join another code, which is called the Cooning Code or the Coon Code. That's the only code that black society follows, is the Coon Code, which is basically accepting butter biscuits, crumbs, and symbolism from the dominant white society. So that's what these two guys who I just came across these guys' Instagram pages. They're starch Trump supporters. Some guy named Derek Grananigo and Brandon Tatum. I've never heard of these guys, but as you can see here, here's a post from one of these Trump supporters, black Republicans, who makes a really silly, disingenuous post about a white civilian who was murdered by a female black officer, right? And trying to compare this and make a distinction of a black police officer killing a white civilian. And that is completely disingenuous because the proportions of this happening is completely low in comparison to police killings of unarmed black men, women, and children. Right? Completely different. And, this is something that I've been talking about a few years ago. The Counted by the Guardian. They don't do this. They don't keep up with these stats anymore. Now it's actually, I believe it's managed by the Census Bureau. But I wanted to bring this illustration to a point because when the Guardian was keeping track of the amount of killings by race soldiers, police officers, aka race soldiers, of unarmed black men, women, and children you see the staggering numbers between 2016 and 2015. Over 1,000. This is, again, this is just black people. Over 1,146 people in 2015. Over 1,000 people in 2016. Killed by race soldiers. Black people, most of them unarmed, killed by race soldiers. Okay? So this guy, Derek Grandinho, making these numbers, making these claims that a black cop, a female at that, killing an unarmed, well, I don't know if it's unarmed, but killing a white civilian, yeah, that's not happening as much as white police officers or race soldiers killing unarmed black men, women, and children. The numbers are staggering, right? And then you have this guy here, Brandon Tatum. Again, never heard of this guy, who makes a comparison to the Ahmaud Arbery case by bringing up the killing of Tyshawn Lee, right, who was murdered in cold blood by two black guys. All right, they were murdered. They murdered this young man, and the killers of the 9-year-old Tyshawn Lee were sentenced to 90 and 65 years in jail. Well, guess what? You have another case that was before that, Tamir Rice, who was killed as a 12-year-old boy, right? And he had a fake gun. And the killers, or the killer, was a race soldier, right? Timothy Loman, who didn't get sentenced, didn't get prosecuted, nothing. And as a matter of fact, he actually got his job back. Timothy Loman was able to get a job as a so-called police officer, race soldier at another department, while the killers of Tyshawn Lee, who are black, received 90 and 65 years in jail. And it's not about race, right? See, this is the value of, this is how they value black people. This is how they value black society. It's been said since the inception of the transatlantic slave trade, or since the inception of the Constitution, I should say, where they said that black society, or black people classified as black, Negro, colored, right, were considered 3/5 of a person. We are still considered that today. We are considered not human. We don't have any value. We are the so-called undesirables on this planet. And so that's the reason why you have the killers of Tyshawn Lee receiving 90 and 65 years in prison, and the killer of Tamir Rice getting another job, living his life, sleeping in bed, able to do what he wants, right? This is what's happening here. So, you know, these Trump supporters, the Butter Biscuit Brigade, and you know, these black Republicans, the Coon Code authors, they can do what they want to do in terms of, you know, getting butter biscuits, getting crumbs at the table. You'll never have a seat at the table from white supremacists. That'll never happen. Never happen. So, you know, these two guys and everybody else who was a part of the Trump campaign, black Republicans, can continue to go ahead and say it's not about race and just flip the script, try to deny, deflect, and be dismissive, which is basically you know, the foundational tactic of white supremacy is to deny racism, deflect racism, and be dismissive of racism, white supremacy, right? This is what you guys are doing right here. Oh, well, if you guys had black on black crime, what about Chicago? And this guy talked about Chicago too. He brought up Chicago. Not understanding how and why Chicago is what it is today. Why is that happening still? right? When you're marginalized, when you have credit redlining, when you have impoverished conditions, when you have lack of jobs, lack of education, that is a disaster. Disaster of crime, disaster of violence. When you have that mixed in together, if you have an affluent neighborhood with jobs, education, right? That pretty much cures almost anything when it comes to that. So when you have impoverished conditions with no jobs, no education, no resources, yeah, this is what you're going to get. This is what you're going to continue to get. Marginalized black people, redlining of black people, right? Disenfranchisement, right? That's the end result, and this is what you're getting from Chicago. But they're not going to talk about that. They're just going to talk about the end result, not the how and not the when and not the why, but the end result. That's a typical tactic of white supremacy. Typical tactic, typical talking point. And this is what they're doing. All for what? Just crumbs and symbolism from white supremacy. That's all you guys are going to do. Just a photo op. This is what you call symbolism right here. Right? A photo op from Clockwork Orange, aka Donald Trump. This is what your end result is going to be. Right here. Just a photo op. That's what you're worth. That's what you're worth. You are a pawn on Donald Trump's chess piece. Right? He needs black people to have him around for a photo op to say, hey, I'm not racist. Look at the black people around me. Right? Look at the black people who support me. I'm not racist at all. All along, you guys are being used as political pawns. But, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. So, anyway, those are my thoughts on that, family. Leave your comments down below. This particular case of Ahmaud Arbery is more than likely going as I expected. And like I said, don't be surprised when the trial starts that the family of Ahmaud Arbery is, doing things to basically protect the fabric of white supremacy by saying this is not about race. This is, in other words, my point is don't be surprised if they change their tune. I saw an interview with the father of Ahmaud. He seems pretty aware and cognitive of what's going on. But don't be surprised if him or anybody else in Ahmaud's family decide to say, we need to forgive. We need to look past the color and not make it about race. That kind of thing. Just trying to deny, deflect, and be dismissive about what it is, the elephant in the room, which is racism, white supremacy, which are two white supremacists who publicly lynched Ahmaud Arbery in broad daylight. Right? So it is what it is, family. Those are my thoughts on that. Leave your comments down below. GMOGMedia TV. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at GMOG Fitness. Till next time, signing out. Peace.